from the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast.
Today on AgDay, preparing for a midsummer data dump from USDA. Where will those reports take the market? In analysis, pre-report expectations.
Really, rain makes grain theory holds through July and into early August for corn as well as soybeans.
I'm Michelle Rook. We'll find out if Minnesota is really the sweet spot for crop conditions and what that means for yield coming up.
How much will ABC pay after settling with a beef processor over an unflattering phrase? And keeping your eyes safe during the upcoming solar eclipse.
AgDay, presented by the Chevy Silverado. High-strength steel for high-strength dependability.
Good morning, I'm Tricia Sloma. Clinton Griffiths is on assignment. USDA number crunchers will soon be behind closed doors as the agency prepares to release some likely market-moving reports later today. The Ag Department is preparing to release its latest supply and demand data and the August crop production figures. The reports come out at 11 Central Time. Grain traders expect USDA to trim its corn and soybean crop forecast from last month. This report will be based on surveys and actual in-field analysis. According to our experts at ProFarmer, USDA could trim the national corn yield by as much as 4 bushels an acre, but a soybean cut is not as drastic. Tyne Morgan joins us from the Farm Journal Yield Tour in St. John's, Michigan, where market analysts explain what we're in for if the crop expectations are lowered.
Thanks, Tricia. Yeah, today USDA releasing the next crop production report could be a biggie for the markets. Here with Mike North of Commodity Risk Management Group. Mike, what should our viewers expect from today's report?
Well, the thing everyone's going to be watching is the corn yield. We're going to get ear weights, kernel counts. We're going to get a real look at some field data in this report, and that'll give us some clarity on where we move in terms of direction. It's not always going to be the absolute number, but direction. How big of a cut do they make? Is it only a 2 or 3 bushel cut, or is it substantial, 6 or 7 or 8 bushel cut?
Yeah, based on that, we continue to see crop condition ratings deteriorate. Do you think that we will see USDA cut yield?
We will. They'll retract their yield numbers from the 170.4 they have on the balance sheet right now, and that will move back down towards the average trade guess right now is just over 166.
What does the number need to be in order to move these corn prices higher?
Sub 165 would get everybody talking, because at that point we really start to move away from a 2 billion bushel carryout. At that point we start to talk about what's next in September. Yeah. Do they take it to 162? Does that balance sheet look more like a 1.5 or a 1.6? And then, of course, that has to be balanced against what that looks like in terms of exports, because let's not forget, South America has a big crop and is willing to sell it, and we're going to have to stay competitive if our export number on the balance sheet is going to remain where it's at, near 2 billion bushels.
Something to watch. Thanks so much, Mike. Reporting from St. John's, Michigan, I'm Tyne Morgan for AgDay. Tricia, back to you.
Thanks, Tyne. Crop ratings for corn and soybeans nationally have been running well below last year for much of the growing season. Here we compared Monday's crop progress report to August 8th of 2016. In most of the top 5 corn growing states, this year's crop is about 20 points behind last year's crop rating. The one outlier is Minnesota. Monday's report shows 80% of the corn crop is good to excellent. Last year at this time, it was 85%. The Minnesota corn crop dropped a point from last week, but soybeans are a point higher. So will this translate into higher yields for the state this year? And will Minnesota be anywhere close to last year's record-setting corn and soybean production? Michelle Rook takes a look at the Corn Belt's sweet spot.
Minnesota's corn and soybean crop won't be the record it was a year ago. However, crop conditions are better here than in many areas of the Corn Belt. That includes the drought-stricken Dakotas, and even the I-states have had their challenges, which has been reflected in declining crop ratings.
So I think if you look at that situation here, Minnesota is kind of a sweet spot in retrospect.
However, he says the state is a tale of 2 crops, with the East faring better than the West.
The crop looks very good, I think, in a lot of the parts of the state, especially the south central, eastern part of Minnesota.
That's because those areas have received ample moisture, and so farmers there are optimistic about corn yields.
Actually, I think we're going to be comparable to last year if things progress the way they are. I'm anticipating we can get that 220 to 230 bushel yield on the corn side.
However, as you move to the north and west, rains have been below normal.
Well, we had about 4.5 inches about 6 weeks ago, and we've had 2 or 3 tenths since. So yeah, we're probably 2 or 3 inches behind.
So that, combined with the heat during pollination, will result in lower yields than a year ago.
Last year, we were in that 185 bushel range. This year, we're probably in more than that average. We're hoping that 160 to 165 bushel on corn.
Last year we had best crop ever. We probably averaged 210. I'm guessing we're already 20 bushels off of that in corn.
And if it stays dry, the corn may also be lighter test weight.
Right now, I would say we're on average with test weights, but a lot depends upon if we don't get the moisture to help fill that ear out, we'll then have a lighter test weight.
There's still time for beans, but farmers are generally not as optimistic about the prospects for this crop either because of the planting and emergence issues.
A lot of variabilities when we put the crop in too. Some of it couldn't get it in on time, and then we had some drowned outs, we had some replants, we had all kinds of these small issues.
So soybean yields will be down from last year as well.
We're going to be above trend line, but we're not going to be where we were last year. So, we're probably talking 50 to 60 bushel beans.
And with the variability across the state, average yields won't break last year's records.
South central Minnesota can help to pick up a lot of the state and move it back towards trend line. But I don't think we're looking for a record crop here, obviously, given the current situation and moisture situation.
In Minnesota, I'm Michelle Rourke reporting for AgDay.
Mike Hoffman is checking in now with today's crop comments. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Tricia. A crop reporter in Madison County, Georgia says dry conditions have continued for the last 4 weeks now in the northeast corner of the state near Athens. The report says soybeans are drought stressed. Some farmers are now on a second cutting of hay, but there is some pest infestation. But on the other end of the state, farmers in Thomas County say they could use a little less rain. Many of the crops, cotton, peanuts, and pecans, all seem to have some form of insect or disease pressure brought on by too much moisture. And in Michigan, harvest of early peach varieties is continuing. The crop reporter says quality has been generally good, and growers have noted that the peaches have been sizing and coloring well despite the recent dry weather. And taking a look at the weather map, you can see a couple of systems that'll focus the thunderstorm stationary front in the south and the storm system moving through the upper Midwest. We'll have your forecast coming up, but first here are some hometown temps.
Ever wake up wondering what does today's weather have in store? Well, with weather updates, it delivers the local forecast right to your cell phone each morning to make preparing for the day easier. Just text Weather 6 to 31313 to get started.
Still to come on this report day, we take a closer look at corn prices and crop size projections with Brian Doherty of Stuart Peterson. How much did ABC pay to a beef processor to settle a lawsuit over the phrase pink slime? We get the details in our Drover's Report. And we'll have some tips on protecting those eyes during the upcoming solar eclipse. In agribusiness today, the market is preparing for USDA's monthly data dump. Let's see how the commodity markets closed ahead of the reports. For that, we head to the CME in Chicago.
Wednesday's grains, pretty muted action. We've been on both sides of the unchanged line. You've seen some attempts to sell them, attempts to rally, but I think all eyes are going to really be on tomorrow's USDA report. And I think what we're looking for, again, is I think this is going to be a great buying opportunity. In fact, I think it's a buying opportunity ahead of time. I think the only concern across the whole space is the soybeans. Soybeans must get above $10. Otherwise, I think they're going to go below. Now, right now in this big range, 9.40 to 10. If they break 9.40, I think we're going under 9. So I think we're at some very key levels here, waiting to see what's going to happen. But I don't see upside unless we can get through $10 and then hold. You know, corn, I think that still has a good chance to reach our original 450 target. And I think that here we can look for a buy. So at the end of the day, very bullish the grain space in general. My only concern is soybeans. That's the way I see it. This is Todd Horwitz from BubbaTrading.com, coming from the floor of the CME Group in Chicago.
Allendale Incorporated released its estimate of today's report. The ag commodity and brokerage firm is expecting the corn yield at 163 bushels an acre. That's 3 bushels less than USDA's expected forecast of 166. Tyne Morgan returns now with a discussion on corn prices and yield projections.
Here now with Brian Doherty of Stuart Peterson. Brian, right now when we look at these corn prices, you know, we saw last week, we saw crop condition readings improve in soybeans, but we actually saw USDA shave a point off of corn conditions, but it didn't move the market.
No, it didn't. And part of that is, we talked about this before, this time of year rain really makes a big difference, and especially cool down the temperatures because you'll add weight to corn. So really, rain makes grain theory holds through July and into early August for corn as well as soybeans. And with the crop going backwards, you've got about, let's say 13-14% that's not very good. That corn's not going to improve much. But corn in the fair category, the right weather in the July-August can add some yield. And so I think the marketplace looked at it and said, well, the ratings are sliding, but if you're a farmer, let's say in southern Minnesota, and you're typically averaging 200 bushel yield, and this year you're looking at 150, that 1 or 2 rains may take you right back up toward 200. So that's where a 1% drop in ratings doesn't mean a lot at this time of year if there's rain to offset those drops.
So realistically, though, you know, we hear in Illinois, oh, corn conditions aren't as good as last year. And in Iowa, it just depends on where you are. You know, we're seeing struggles in the east. But at this point, how many struggles do you think we're actually seeing? And do you think that yield will come down that much? I mean, farmers prove year in and year out, they can, no matter the weather obstacles, they can still produce a good crop.
Oh, sure. And most yield models do show decreases, of course. The USDA last month was 170.7. The mark was looking for about 168.5. Private estimates are now moving down toward the mid 160s, even low 160s. That's probably realistic. Okay. But here's part of the issue is when you look at yield, that's a component of production. The other side of that coin is demand. And the USDA in June lowered exports for the year ahead over 300 million bushels. So when you put all the numbers together to date, you're looking at a carryout that's very similar to a year ago. So the end user is looking at this going, you know, corn's a good value, but I don't have to jump yet. I'll wait. And we see that on our end. Feed buyers, dairies, feedlots that buy corn, they're ready to pull the trigger, but they just haven't here in the last couple of weeks because the weather took a turn for the better.
All right, thanks, Brian. We appreciate it. Stay with us. We'll be back with more AgDay in just a moment.
To discuss marketing strategies, call 800-334-9779 or visit stuartpeterson.com.
Welcome back to AgDay. I'm meteorologist Mike Hoffman. A couple of systems we're watching. First is the stationary front. That's just kind of going to focus some of the afternoon variety showers and thunderstorms that'll bubble up in the southeast, and also the northern system kind of moving slowly eastward, cold front slowly moving southeastward, and that will kind of focus some showers and thunderstorms as well in places. You can see our computer model bringing some of those storms into the western Great Lakes later today. Otherwise, it's just hit and miss really throughout the country. A little bit in the southwest, not as much as we've seen most of the season though so far it looks like. And then as we head through the nighttime hours tonight, could be a complex of storms, at least our computer model is hinting at it for parts of southern Kansas into Oklahoma. We'll have to watch that. And then as we head through the day tomorrow, you can see how just the afternoon thunderstorms once again from the Ohio River Valley, central and eastern Great Lakes, all the way through the southeastern sections, and a little bit hit and miss out west as well. Kind of typical weather for this time of the year. This is another cool air mass coming in, which is going to dry things out for the northern and central plains as we head into the first part of the latter parts of the week and into the first part of the weekend. Now, taking a look at precipitation estimates over the past 24 hours, we've seen it in the southeast, upper Midwest, hit and miss out west. Adding in the next 36 hours, you can kind of see how we'll put some more down in parts of the southeastern sections of the country. And we will also add some, again, our model is showing that complex affecting mainly parts of Kansas and Oklahoma, but that's always tough to forecast for a computer model, so keep that in mind. Then you can see in the upper Midwest, there'll be some heavier thunderstorms, but in general, that's kind of scattered through the western Great Lakes. High temperatures this afternoon, 70s once again for the northern plains, 80s into much of the northeast, which is warming up again, 90s for Texas and Oklahoma, triple digits in the desert southwest. Low temperatures tonight going to drop into the 50s and 60s across the northern tier of states, 70s by the time you get into Dixie, and then you can see the jet stream itself. The trough continues to kind of dig through with pieces of it anyway, kind of digging through the Great Lakes in the Northeast, keeping things on the cool side for this time of the year. But there are some signs that you'll actually get a little bit of a warm-up by the middle of next week as that trough kind of moves eastward. Ridge continues to hold out west, so the heat continues in that part of the country. That is a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. Heading to Lyman, Colorado, first of all, variably cloudy. An afternoon thunderstorm is likely, high of 78. Rochester, Minnesota, a bit more humid. Thunderstorm in some areas, high of 75. And Florence, South Carolina, warm and humid. Afternoon thunderstorms, high of 85.
When a beef processor sued ABC over the phrase pink slime, the company asked for more than $2 billion. The two sides settled before there was a verdict, but for how much? That's next. And if you plan to watch the solar eclipse later this month, you better have eye protection. We'll take a look at the damage you could face later on AgDay. In news from our partner at Drovers, Beef Products Incorporated was reportedly paid $177 million by Walt Disney Company to settle a lawsuit brought against ABC News. You may remember the beef processor sued the news network for its use of the phrase pink slime to describe the lean, finely textured beef product. According to Reuters, Disney's quarterly financial report shows a charge of $177 million in connection with the settlement of litigation.
Disney reported the settlement of the litigation in a footnote to its financial report, saying it was seeking additional insurance proceeds to recover its cash payment. The financial tables show a charge of $177 million, described as being in connection with settlement of litigation. The figure is not directly linked to the pink slime case, but the BPI litigation is the only one Disney specifies in the report.
Grocery stores and schools stopped using LFTB and ground beef after ABC aired their reports. When demand shrunk, BPI shut down processing facilities in Kansas, Texas, and Iowa. According to Reuters, the settlement of $177 million is only about 3% of the value the lawsuit could have netted. Under South Dakota's Agricultural Food Products Disparagement Act, the original amount would have been tripled to more than $5 billion. You can get more details of the settlement by reading the complete story at drovers.com. As we get ready for the big celestial show, we'll see how to protect your eyes from those harmful rays of a solar eclipse. In the Country is next.
In the Country, sponsored by Kubota. See the hardest working tractors in ag at Kubota.com or visit your local Kubota dealer today.
With the upcoming total solar eclipse in August, all eyes will soon be on the sky. The University of Missouri and Columbia will be one of the prime viewing spots for this historic event. Experts at MU are teaming up to inform the public about the science and the safety of the eclipse. Kent Faddis with the University of Missouri has more.
University of Missouri astronomer Angela Speck has been waiting her entire career for 2 minutes, and she will soon have the best seat in the house. On August 21st, a total solar eclipse will take place in the U.S., and Columbia, Missouri is in the direct viewing path.
So this isn't just a visual experience, it is an all-encompassing experience.
Speck, who co-chairs the American Astronomical Society's Eclipse Task Force, says this is a landmark event for scientists and the public to learn more about the science of the sun. But she wants people to do it safely. So the astronomer is teaming up with an MU healthcare ophthalmologist to remind people to protect their eyes during this rare event.
From staring at the sun, the main thing we worry about is burning your retina, burning your macula.
Dr. Frederick Fraunfelder says looking at the sun for a few seconds without protection can lead to temporary or permanent vision loss. Standard sunglasses will not be enough. He recommends wearing special eclipse glasses that have dense solar filters. Wear these glasses, especially during the partial eclipse phase, to filter harmful ultraviolet rays, infrared, and intense visible light rays.
During the partial eclipse, not all the sun rays are hitting your eye as intensely, and it may not hurt. And so pain cannot be the clue that you're getting damage to your eyes.
For approximately 2 minutes, 40 seconds, the moon will completely block the face of the sun, turning day into night and dropping temperatures 10 degrees. Both experts agree during this part you can take off the eclipse glasses, and enjoy the show of a lifetime.
Once the sun is completely blocked out and you can see this corona, it's completely safe. It's only as bright as the full moon. It's not going to hurt your eyes.
But all other times, use caution.
We want this to be a memorable experience, and we don't want to make this a sight for sore eyes.
From the University of Missouri, Kent Faddis reporting.
That's all the time we have this morning. We're so glad you tuned in. For Tyne Morgan and Mike Hoffman, I'm Tricia Sloma. Have a great day.
AgDay is powered by Ram Trucks, America's longest-lasting pickups.